Hi everybody. Sitting in a parking lot, so I'm sure people will come up to me or see me talking to myself. I wanted to pop in. Happy Friday to everybody, first of all. I wanted to pop in today to chat a little bit about financial clarity and why it's really so important and what that even really means, like what the hell that means when it comes to actually planning for your finances. So if you are new here, my name is Molly. I am a certified financial planner. I have been an advisor since 2006 in the financial services world. So I recently, at the end of last year, I left my client-facing book managing job to start Money Sense with Molly because I really wanted to create a platform for women to learn about finances from someone who actually has the credentials and the background and the history without feeling intimidated or feeling like any of their questions were dumb. So that's where Money Sense came from. And today I just want to talk a little bit about, financial clarity and sort of how you establish that in your own finances. So when I was an active advisor, working like managing a book of business, whenever we would have a new client come in, the very first thing, before you can give like actual investment advice, you need to know, this is very clearly laid out in all of our training and all of our testing. Due diligence of fact finding the history and the background of the person that you are speaking with before you give it a lick of advice, of personalized advice. Is critical, right? So when people would come into us and they would say, this and this and this are my issue and my questions, the very first thing we would need to do is basically say, okay, that sounds great. I need to collect a lot of information from you, right? And what that often would look like is basically a big checklist, and we'd hand it to them and off they'd go. And the diligent ones would, come back and send us all of the information that was on the checklist, and then we could actually create an actual financial plan for them, right? A lot of times these folks had pretty sizable investable assets, so money that they wanted to actually be managed in an investment portfolio. But again, before we could give those recommendations, we had to do some of this backstory and this, due diligence on the backside. As that relates to people that are in my Money Sense community and like the regular person who maybe doesn't have a few $1 million of investable assets, it's still really critical to get that foundation and that baseline set up before you make any investment decisions or long-term planning decisions. Like you have to create a foundation, whether you have, lots of money to invest or $0. You have to create that foundation of understanding what your whole situation is, and then you can make educated decisions going forward, right? So this is the process that I would take people through when they were coming to us as I was managing a multi-million-dollar book of business. And now I'm trying to bring that process to my lovely community with Money Sense. And the way I've tried to do that is I've actually created what's called the Clarity Calculator. And the Clarity Calculator is going to be this handheld process where, as I mentioned before, we used to give like a big checklist and be like, okay, go collect all this information, which included bank accounts, insurance. It was just 2 full pages of all these checklists, legal documents, business interest information. Go out and collect that stuff. And a lot of times people just didn't come back because they get overwhelmed, their life happens. And so I've really thought over the last few months, how do I take that critical step and kind of distill it down into something more palatable? This guy's over here doing batting practice. That's fun. More palatable for the regular person, right? And that's where I have come up with the Clarity Calculator. So the Clarity Calculator is going to help you set that foundation so you can make educated decisions going forward. When people talk about money, they always originally go to investing, right? Invest. And if you just go to investing, you're really putting the cart in front of the horse. You're just skipping some steps. And so the Clarity Calculator is going to be a process that you can go through to set that foundation. And maybe if you have to consolidate and tidy things up, this process is going to help you do that so that when you're ready to talk about investing and you're ready to actually look at future planning, you've done some of that legwork to create a solid foundation for yourself. Because it's like a dumb little, metaphor, but I kind of talk about like building a house. If you don't do this, you're kind of building a house on quicksand because you haven't set up these foundations. And if you jump steps and something happens, not having this foundation can kind of screw up your plans hugely down the road. So what the Clarity Calculator does is it shows you step by step how to collect this information to create that foundation. It is going to literally hold your hand, like, here is step one, go out and do this. And what's nice about it, my calculator is in the form of a Google sheet, but I have embedded videos to explain the entire step to you, depending upon how quickly people want to go through it. I have very clearly lined out, this is the action you need to go through in this step. Here are the types of accounts to try to jog your memory about what you're looking for. This is what you need to go out and look for in this step. Once you have all that information, you kind of input it into the calculator, and then you move on to the next step. I'm going to have a story series about the calculator so you can actually see an example of it. I can't really show it on a live. But that's the first step. And then the second step, I'll have a new video that shows you, okay, in this step, this is what we're going to go find, and this is the information we're going to build into the calculator. And it's about 7 steps, okay? If you have a really kind of simple financial situation and you just have maybe a couple accounts that are checking or investment accounts, it might take you 25 minutes to go through the whole calculator. If you are, a person of my age or older who has maybe had a number of different jobs throughout the years, maybe you have old 401ks out there, maybe you have a number of different accounts out there, going through the Clarity Calculator is going to help you visualize all of those things together so that you can say, okay, maybe it's time to actually tackle this and consolidate accounts, tidy things up, get things cleaned up so that I can actually be intentional about how I'm moving forward with my decisions. So the Clarity Calculator is going to walk you through that step by step, and at the end of it, the calculation is going to actually tell you what your net worth is, okay? And your net worth is basically a value of what are your assets, right? Subtract out what your liabilities are, what are your debts, and whatever the number is left over, the balance there, that's your net worth. So if you have $1 million in assets because you have a lot of equity in a home and you have a 401k worth $100,000 or $200,000, that's going to be the top number, and then you subtract out those liabilities, which would include maybe a mortgage or any other debts you might have. Maybe you have $700,000 of debt. Your net worth is going to be $300,000. And so now that you have that information going through the Clarity Calculator, now you can say, okay, I've got very strong money awareness. I know what I have and where it is. And I know kind of where my financial position is as sort of just as sort of a checkpoint, right? The net worth that you're establishing today is kind of a checkpoint for you to reference it down the road and in the future. Because as that net worth number grows, that means that your assets have grown or your liabilities have shrunk, right? So we want to track that net worth number over time and just see, we want the trajectory to be in a positive direction, right? Things like market performance will obviously affect the values of investment accounts. But that is what the Clarity Calculator does. And if you are feeling confused or just like, I don't know where to even start with my finances, the Clarity Calculator is where you start. It is a step-by-step, hold your hand process to identify everything that you have and where it is. And at the end of that, you're going to have created your net worth number. And then I give you next steps for kind of how to move forward creating that foundation before you then need to make further decisions about investments or insurance or anything else that might relate to your situation. So that's just what I wanted to talk about today. It's important to recognize I was on a meeting the other day with my membership. I have a membership if anyone's interested. We do a weekly Q&A. And a woman asked me, is this, because she had just gone through the Clarity Calculator and she really liked it. She said, is this aligned with what you do with these larger clients that you used to manage? And I was like, it's pretty much the exact same thing. So you can think about people who are going to these big firms and meeting with these highfalutin financial advisors. This is literally the exact same thing they're doing. Okay, so I have 18 years of experience. I have a CFP. I want to help you go through that process step by step, and the Clarity Calculator is going to be the most affordable and the most, the quickest way to do it with a lot of overall guidance. So just wanted to chat a little bit about what that is. It's a newer thing that I have finished, and so I'm excited to continue to talk about it on my page. But excited for any of you guys, to be here. Thanks for being on my page, and I hope everybody has a great Friday. If you do have any questions, if you want to get to the Clarity Calculator, you can comment the word clarity below, and it'll send you right over to it so you can get more information about it. But if you have any questions about it, take a look at my stories highlights that I will be establishing here shortly, and you can also just directly DM me. So everybody have a great rest of your day. I just got a really, really bad sunburn yesterday, so I'm gonna go find some aloe, and we'll talk to you guys later.